Well, friends, welcome to Lazarus Symposium. I think this is the 33rd symposium in this series, which we kicked off about 3 years ago. I've set up a new studio here, which I'm apparently having difficulties with. You can see I've got a very large screen there behind me, and I'm able to now save my failing eyesight and look directly at the screen above my computer. Saturday, 30th of March, and this is the 33rd symposium in the Lazarus series. Very, very happy today to be bringing back someone who I've had a private held a candle for a very, very long time, put it that way. And to those of you who know that this woman is anchoring some of the most extraordinary energetics in the world today. I think that she is a celestial conduit. A great many millions of people agree with me. There have been a few detractors around the world. Anyone who detracts or throws rocks at me or anyone in the truth and disclosure movement is the one who is in wrong action. So just bear that much in mind. I'm very, very happy indeed today to bring on to Lazarus again, Elena Danaan. Elena, so good to see you.
Oh, Sasha, that's so nice what you just said. I thought you were introducing Jane.
Oh, well, my audience know and love Jane very well, but you're a rare one. It's not easy to get you on, but we're just so happy to have you today. And you're joining us from Ireland. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sasha. And I have to say, I admire your resilience, your dedication to truth, to spiritual disclosure, if I may, I call it like this. And well done. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you. So, friends, for those of you who've not yet met Elena Danaan, she is the multifaceted astrophysicist and archaeologist with roots in Marseille, France, enriched by her Greek and Gotlandish heritage. And her life took an extraordinary turn at the age of 9 due to an encounter with Zeta Reticula, small gray, leading to a dramatic rescue by the Galactic Federation's Starseed Initiative. The kind of thing, incidentally, that a great many people hawk at and burst out laughing and sort of spit their coffee out. But I'll tell you, in my own engagement over the years at a very high diplomatic level, and again, not to shake a dick, but speaking even to heads of state, I have had corroboration, confirmation of these facts. We are very much known at the highest echelon of leadership in the world, military, intelligence, academic, and so on. That's before we even get into the clutches of the Vatican and Washington and the kind of black nobility, the high echelon that have controlled the rollout of not just this civilizational wheel, but multiple civilizational wheels. They have always ever known that the human is, in that sense, the galactic hybrid. And I would say this, that the aspect of the human that is the most important is the angelic aspect, the element that you and I represent. So we're going to have this incredible conversation with Elena Danaan. I want to ask a little bit more about that dramatic rescue by the Galactic Federation Starseed Initiative. But in her best-selling memoir called A Gift from the Stars, Elena recounts her experiences with these extraterrestrial beings. And through her story, she invites us all to explore the vast potential within ourselves and the mysteries of the universe. She's been working lately with another remarkable soul, and that is Dan Willis, who you all know and love as well. Dan, a U.S. Navy veteran who testified about the ET phenomenon in the National Press Club in 2001, part of Dr. Stephen Greer's disclosure work, his post-military work with Werner von I could never know how to pronounce his name, Werner von Braun at Fairchild Industries, and his investigative research into ancient advanced technology and geomancy offers very unique insights as well. Dan, so happy to have you back, brother.
Oh, such a pleasure, and to join my dear friend Lena as well. As you know, I've been researching for many decades, and Elena has multiple scientific corroborating evidences to support her credibility of being the emissary for the Galactic Federation of Worlds. And we're all on the same team here. We all want to see our planet liberated and the deceptions exposed and move into a beautiful new, as Dr. Michael Salla says, our Star Trek future.
Yes, indeed. I hope to that. Finally, friends, welcome Jane Evershed, the artist, researcher, activist, and fellow at the New Earth University, and supreme grandmother. Where is she? Now, typical, she's disappeared. She's run off somewhere. Christy, see if you can chase her down. And when you see her, when she comes back in, kindly just pop her straight into the studio. I'm on a diminished screen today, so I can't see the green room and the studio at the same time. So I'll be blind to it. But friends, let's crack on. Here with Elena Danaan and Dan Willis. Very, very happy to be engaging this conversation. Let me, by way of introduction, just say this. As we navigate through this period of extraordinary shift and significant change planetarily, we can reflect on how far we've come. This series that we began a few months ago with Dan and Jane, essentially looking at Psyops in history, has taken us from complex strategies of the Jesuits to the challenges of modern pandemics and pushing us to question and reevaluate what so many have taken as the norm. So we're moving towards a future where knowledge and understanding lift the veil of fear and control, to be sure. And that's what Revelation is all about simply casting light upon that which has been hidden from the light. And that is the function of the living temple, the angelic human. The living temple of the angelic human is a light bearer. We're the ones who put light into the dark, into this cauldron of creation, into this abyss, and invoke and conjure into manifestation the highest patterns of perfection. So this today is not just a conclusion of what was, is the beginning of what's to come, awakening to the boundless potential within us as luminous angelic beings. Elena, when we talk of Psyops, psychological operations, it's a bit of a reductive thing to speak in terms of Psyops. I would say the whole of reality in that sense, Maya, the illusion reality, the false light matrix, is itself the greatest Psyop in the history of time. What do you think?
Well, psychological operation is a term that encompasses so many things, so many different things. And you resume it very well in one expression, the illusion of reality, the false matrix. And there are so many different psyop that feed and make the structure of this fake matrix. Many of them have been, and Dan Willis is the expert on this, have been made up and created since the 1940s to stop the disclosure about extraterrestrials and how the governments were involved with them. But there's also recently a new type of psychological operations, because the enemies of humanity had understood that the only way that humanity would be free from this slavery is a spiritual awakening to who they truly are, awakening to their own power. And then when they reach out to this, when humans know who they are, then they are able to understand the other psyops and have discernment. So that was to suddenly the emergency on the top of the other psyops. And what it is about infiltrating the different spiritual movements that gather people on their path of spiritual awakening. So we call it the spiritual community, or the starseed community, or great awakening community. All these little groups and communities, they have been infiltrated by agents, or not especially knowing what they are doing. There are different levels also in this, spreading false narratives that people are going to basically wait for a savior, either person or either event, cosmic event, that they will not do the work themselves, because the great awakening of one person goes by personal work, and it's in an individual work. It's going within and activating our cellular memory. But when you are told that you need to wait for a savior event or whatever, you stop doing the work. And that's the purpose of the actual dangerous psyops at the moment. And there are so many we can go over.
Beautiful. Thank you. Jane, welcome. Just so you know, you're in the shade. We can't really see your face, but you're a fabulous silhouette. That's calibrated better. Thank you. We just began, Jane, just giving a kind of backdrop to the series that we started a few months ago, you, myself, and Dan. I think it's so beautiful and appropriate that we bring Elena's frequency and her very kind of psycho-spiritual circumspection into closing this piece on psyops. My question to Elena was, isn't the reality, the false light reality matrix, the biggest psyop of all? So she was just waxing on that subject. But Jane, thank you for joining us. And this is your introduction to the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I don't think you can get any more big picture than Elena Danaan, honestly. And that's my favorite thing, is stepping back and looking at the biggest picture you possibly can, which is why I've been studying our galactic history lately. We're very much missing it. And I'm sorry that I dropped out. You know, over here in Costa Rica, the electricity keeps going off and on and on and off. So please bear with me with that.
Very good. Well, welcome to the developing world, darling, now that you've left the climes of North America. In any event, Dan, your reflections, please, as we come to the end of the series on psychological operations. Do you not believe that the fact that we know about the psyops, the fact that we've begun to identify so much of the false narrative of how the orchestration of events and circumstances that happen on the screen of our collective life, we've now rumbled the game. We've now worked out that so much of it is orchestration. So in seeing that much of reality is erected on the edifice of psyops, would you agree that we are leaving the realm of psychological operations now as a direct result and moving into a different form of intellectual civilizational upshift?
Well, only the Galactic Federation of Worlds knows for sure. And apparently one of their last meetings was very encouraging, that the number of the population are becoming awake. And then we have our earthly agencies like the NSA, monitoring everybody. So yeah, there's a certain percentage, and I believe in the collective consciousness that we're all connected to. As more of us awaken, the more exponentially more of the population becomes awake. And from what I'm seeing, it looks very encouraging.
So, Jane, what are your thoughts as well, just on that question that I asked? Do you think that we're seeing the end of psyops precisely because we've now begun to shed collective light on the subject?
Well, I do think everybody is waking up in a collective sense, but then you've got, like today, Biden declared Easter Sunday Transgender Visibility Day. So they're countering as much as they possibly can. And so it's going to be a fight to the end for sure. But I do believe a lot of people are waking up. But we were looking at Ascension itself. My cadres and I were looking at Ascension, and we were thinking that for the possibility of the Eternal Mother to enter into our realm in the way that she should be revered, we were thinking that we would possibly have to ascend before that could even happen, because of the stereotypes that have been drummed into our brains so hard and fast for so long, for so many thousands of years. We don't know how to bring back this Eternal Mother into our realm so that we have this unity consciousness.
Well, either that, or we fundamentally do know how to resurrect the atom seed of the Eternal Mother, which represents the unknown, the invisible realm, the supernature. Surely that's the point of reaching this alchemization threshold at the psycho-civilizational level. There's meltdown going on. Anyone who can't see that doesn't have a pulse. So in every aspect of so-called reality and so-called, the framing of reality, it's all melting down. It's all reaching that threshold event. So I suggest that is where that eternal flame resurrects and the upshift occurs, precisely because we're in that helter-skelter. The irony, of course, is that the Illuminati, or I don't know, maybe I've got my syntax wrong, and Elena might correct me here, but to speak very simplistically, the Thetan, Orion, Zeta Reticulan, Draconian, Sabbatean, Luciferian, Saturnian aspect of our false light reality is the backdrop against which has created the compression that brings us to this helter-skelter, this abject chaos, from which the satanic Luciferian would have us manifest their outcome, but we're doing the opposite. So Elena, I think you get what I'm going at there. We are the ones who are now actually gazumping the game that's been played against us. Does that make sense?
Yes, the enemies of humanity, as I like to call all what you've named, and the three-letter agency is the executive operation of them, I would say. They knew from the start, from knowledge that's not from this earth, that humans of earth have a power of manifestation, have the power, the creative power upon reality. They've been hiding that to us the best ways they could, with religions, etc. Psyops, of course. The secret is that they've been hiding from us about ourselves, is that we have, by our thoughts, our power of thoughts, the ability to modify and create, alter the web, the structure, the holographic structure of reality. So any emotion, and the emotion is the key, any emotion that they put in our head, like fear, for instance, they broadcast narratives of fear porn, as we call it. And we are going to project this frequency of fear into the web of reality, and we are going to create it. They are unable to modify the reality. We are. So they are going to influence us to create the reality they want. That is why I am really fighting for a long time to tell people, stop giving into the fear narrative. You have the power to create your own reality. That's the secret.
So plasma harvesting, attention, the photons that come out of our attention from the pineal, which is connected to the kundalini, which is the conduit of life force, connecting us to our supernature, alpha, omega. So every human being in that sense becomes a living plasma charged capacitor that is able to output limitless amounts of creation energy. And if we direct our attention towards objective A, that's what manifests. If we direct it to objective B, that's what manifests. So the battle then becomes in the realm of the imagination and the capacity to which we can step back ourselves from the thrall of fear, step into our own supernature, take command and control of our own capacity to imagine or dream wisely. And at the collective level, that becomes an unstoppable force which shapes worlds, more or less.
Yes, and once we realize all of this, because knowledge is power and you cannot unknow what you know, once we got to that point, they're done. Because we are going to use this power to create the world we want. Because, wait a minute, I want a better world for my children, I'm going to manifest it, and it works.
Right. And the argument I've made as an activist for so many years, literally for 20 years, I've been begging people, stop paying personal income tax. Just stop doing it. That's your input. It's time, motion, energy into coin, which represents life force. You pay that to Caesar, you take the knee to Caesar, and so it goes on. So restructure, recalibrate your life in such a way that your personal income tax is not tethered to Cronus and to the way that evil becomes manifest in this world, war, disease, poverty, blah, blah, blah. So that's a mechanistic function. But it's even difficult for people to comprehend that, let alone for them to comprehend the fact that they have the capacity to dream wisely and manifest heaven on earth. Dan, in all of the psyops that we've discussed in the last few months, which ones come to mind, to the forefront of your mind in respect of how those operations have shaped our consciousness globally as a species?
Unquestionably, our mainstream media. Our mainstream media, people, when you're a child, you watch television with your parents, and your parents didn't question the validity of the information, and you just naturally grow into adulthood and assume that. Fortunately, there's a lot of people that are seeing the glitches, I guess you could say, in the matrix and starting to question the information because they see certain things happen in the world, and they see the information conflicting with that. And so they start to say, well, something's not quite right here. So they start to look outside. Like when I testified in Washington, I didn't even know what Operation Mockingbird was. Here was 22 cameras in the back row. We're talking to the mainstream media of the world, and we're revealing, incredible information that would have been a world-changing event. And I naively thought it was going to be a world-changing event, but then I became aware of a long history of infiltration into controlling our perceptions, not only in our education system and mainstream media. That's the number one for me.
Right, very good. Yeah, I think I would say it's religion. For me, it would be religiosity, how that managed to shape us in such a monumental way. But in that sense, media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram is the new religion. It is the new Catholicism in that sense.
Well, I was lucky. I dodged that bullet, on religion.
We'll make you famous on Facebook yet, Dan, don't you worry. Jane, your reflections, again, same question. What are the first one or two psyops that come to your mind that you believe have shaped outside of mainstream media and religion?
Well, I think the biggest one of all was the ritual of the Nagasaki and Hiroshima bombs as a death cult trinity put into our system, and beyond that, we've just had war after war after war after war. That was a satanic ritual to gear us to actually accept the killing of our own species on a grand scale, including the women who give birth to children who would go to war to help build those ammunitions up to send over there. We were so psyched out that we killed our own.
So just to it really normalized mass sacrifice of innocence in that sense.
Absolutely, in the hundreds of thousands at once, with every B-2 bomber that dropped bombs over Japan.
Yeah. Dan, I understand that you've got a short presentation for us. Is that correct?
Oh, I didn't know I was first in line. Yes, I do.
Oh,
I didn't have enough time to actually time it. It might be, might go into 10 minutes or something like that. But we'll see. It'll be a virgin run.
But I tell you what, hold off for 5 minutes, cue yourself up there. Before that, I just want to ask a question of Elena, which is whilst we're on the subject, Elena, I want to ask you to discuss briefly the role of extraterrestrial narratives within the framework of Psyops. Dan alluded to Dr. Stephen Greer's disclosure project, which he believed some years ago, as did I. I mean, I was also watching that, Dan, and I genuinely thought, well, here we go, folks, strap in, put your seatbelts on. Finally, it's out. Finally, the Al Bieleks of this world and, all of these extraordinary whistleblowing characters finally have an artery that's going to bring them into the mainframe. Well, boy, did that disappoint all of us. But Elena, what are your thoughts? I mean, the role of extraterrestrial narratives within the framework of Psyops how do these ET narratives shape our collective consciousness and affect societal norms?
Well, that's a vast subject. Try to be compact. The extraterrestrials have been involved in the history of humanity since the dawn of time, but what concerns our modern time with disclosure. The extraterrestrials, there was a negative faction, two negative factions of extraterrestrials. The Orion Greys called themselves the Dominion or the Nebu, and also what we call the Draco Reptilians or Sikar. These both allied for profit interest to have a pass agreement with the dark faction of the Earth governments. You have one side, the Draco Reptilian, made deals with the Nazis, and the Nebu from Orion made deals with, I would say, more the dark governments, the American MJ-12. And they started to, at the end, they both allied for interest at the end of the Second World War. The purpose was profit from humans. The Greys would be on Earth conducting hybridization experiments, and everybody would profit on it. And basically, the MJ-12 sold humanity behind Eisenhower's back and will to these nefarious ETs. So taking only that, the deep state and the enemies of humanity, they do not want us to know about that. So they're going to say, oh, that's BS, that never happens. And so these ones who said, all ETs are good, there is no bad ETs. That's nothing happens, pass your way, that would be one psyop. All ETs are good. And then there would be another psychological operation that would come more from the Nazi German side, and Werner von Braun just spoke about that. The Operation Blue Beam with fake good aliens who would come to save humanity. There would be a fake invasion and a fake salvation with holographic show. All of this to drive humanity to unite to a new world order. It will be all manipulation. To my papers, this will not occur. So that's the main psyop from the enemies of humanity. But the thing is, since 2021, all these nefarious ETs have been expelled from our star system. This is the information I brought, but I'm not the only one. This information was confirmed later, a year or so, by, for instance, someone, I forget his name, in a high position in the Arlington Institute, Dan keep the records of all the stuff. So there is no more bad aliens in our star system now. They're gone. But now we need to be careful about the so-called alien invasion. They try to pass this kind of psyop through the Hollywood movies. The aliens are going to invade Earth. That's not going to happen because now it's safe. But so now any good aliens, such as the Galactic Federation of Worlds, who have been protecting humanity and warning humanity since a very long time, when they are planning to make a civilian contact, the mainstream media would say, oh, these are the bad aliens, we need to kill them and don't trust them, and that's another level of psyop. So it's different layers, different things. So would worth 3 hours talking about it.
Yeah, well, exactly right. I mean, you mentioned Majestic 12 a moment ago, and because that really, in a sense, was the genesis point of how we started on Earth to highly compartmentalize and sequester this engagement with the extraterrestrials. And when I say I'm talking about the malevolent engagement with extraterrestrials. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that back in the day, in the 1950s, essentially into the early 60s, when MJ-12 was really the ground central for this kind of hyper compartmentalized control of engagement with extraterrestrials and those secret operations, black operations. Henry Kissinger, of course, I think we've got a picture here somewhere of Henry Kissinger. Help me out here, Christy, please. There we go, at the bottom there. You know, this ghastly creature here, absolute heinous, nefarious, perfidious creature who slithered off the planet very recently, but perfectly embodies this element that we're talking about, the deviant patriarch, the one that decided to take control and containment of all the information, the technology, the wisdom, the esoteric arts, the Babylonian, you know, all of that stuff. So Majestic 12 came in. Do you believe now that Kissinger is dead, that MJ12 and that kind of command central is completely gone? Has that morphed into something else?
No, they have shifted into something else, and I'm not the expert in the matter. Maybe Dan can talk about this better. But there's something, Sasha, quickly. I try to be quick. I want to add, because we were talking. You were asking me about the spiritual movement infiltration, and that is when I can mention that there are psyops about ETs, and I can name them. You have, for instance, the counter narrative to blurry take people away from the Galactic Federation of Worlds, who have been working with the US Navy since the 1950s, even late 40s. The Galactic Federation of Light, this doesn't exist. This is an invention, psyop invention, and people are very confused, and that's the aim, to confuse people. And the Galactic Federation of Light is an invention. There's a lot of gray nebula behind it. And it's promoting the salvation agenda, that you need to wait for solar flash or cosmic event that will never happen, and that, I mean, that you need to just sit and wait. There are horrible psyops that I think it's really cruel. Some things are like, ETs are going to come and save us because the Earth is going to split in two. Hello, but you can't take your pets with you. I mean, that's totally MyLab, MK Ultra technique. It's MK Ultra techniques. I mean, and people are completely desperate, you know. If you're a good spiritual soldier and you do how we say, you will get on these ships. What ship? The ships that will come and rescue everyone. What? That sounds like a culling. Hello, and the Jerusalem ship. It's imaginary. And all these things, and Ashtar Shiran, and all these. Then they use names of ascended masters, and they mix it in it, like Yeshua. Yeah, you hear about Saint Germain, Sananda. On my website, I listed them all on the elenadehanan.org/debunk. You go there, you find the list.
Beautiful, Dan. Take it away. Thank you, Elena. That was beautiful. I'm giving you the floor here, Dan.
Whenever the truth comes out, how do you hide the truth? You come out with counter narratives that muddies the water. So the people who haven't spent time, over decades researching this, looking at the authenticated classified documents, looking at all the witness testimonies, a person who doesn't have the background to pull from, they're easily swayed. Oh, they don't know, what's what. And so it effectively works. So, well, I put together a slide presentation just yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to actually do a dry run with it. But should I go ahead and enter into that?
Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
All right. I hope nobody has copyrighted this term. Okay, here we go.
Are we seeing a slideshow? Are you going to be showing something on your screen?
Yes, I'm accessing it right now. Okay, hopefully no one else has got this term. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, yes, yes. Carry on.
Yeah.
Okay, this is planetary liberation style. All right. As we talked earlier about the power of imagination, you know, since we are, as Elena said, we're all creative beings. We're all fractals of source. That's the one thing they're incredibly afraid of, is that we use our collective powers to create the reality that we want to see. So invite everybody to imagine this. Situation on Earth. The year is 2024, and the planet Earth, having been technologically and psychologically hijacked for many decades by a cabal of dark criminal elements using psychological warfare, has at long last begun its process of liberation from the deceptions perpetrated upon the people of this planet. The people of the planet have been deceived and divided against each other due to the cabal's centralized control of the information in the media. So a plan was made. Fortunately, benevolent elements within our military a long time ago realized these treasonous elements would continue to perpetrate its dark agenda unless intervened against, and so a plan was made. The problem with implementing the plan was that due to the dark cabal's control of the media, it had weaponized the public's perceptions so that any military action would be viewed as an illegal, hostile force against the people, rather than liberating them from the dark cabal's control. Because the media had been weaponized, the full truth of the situation could not be exposed. Alternative media outlets on the internet, like yours, Sasha, outside the cabal's control, helped greatly a certain percentage of critical thinking of the population that sensed something was not quite right, while still the rest of the population could not and would not believe that their trusted media sources have been infiltrated and controlled to have them support a cabal's agenda that is ultimately being used against them. Anyone who questioned the media's narrative would be labeled as a baseless conspiracy theorist and an extremist spreading dangerous disinformation, which is number one on their list. You can't tell the people about this. You have to show them. The benevolent elements within the military realized that unless the people were united in understanding what has been perpetrated upon them, that no action against the criminals of humanity would be able to happen without their consent and approval of the majority of the people. So it was decided to allow the cabal to continue forward on its agenda and allow those who once trusted the media to see with their own eyes the cabal's hidden agenda being exposed for all to see. A turning point occurred where the cabal no longer was attempting to be secret with its plans against humanity. They were exposed in their plans to dramatically reduce the population to a smaller, more controllable slave force, which they could then control by controlling their food supply. Once they became obvious to a greater percentage of the population, their false propaganda on their controlled media outlets became more and more transparent to the people. The tipping point to this was to use the rule of law. At this tipping point in this war against humanity, the military, using the rule of law as previously established by the Law of War Manual, had accumulated substantial, unequivocal evidence against these criminals of humanity. But first, before the roundup of them to be brought before an international criminal court, the public needed to be fully informed to gather their consent to these criminals being tried for their crimes. So, this first had to seize the media. To circumvent the cabal's interference with the control of the mainstream media and the internet, the United States Marines were deployed to secure the corporate facilities from interfering with a historic public service broadcast on all media outlets. Seizure of the media. The online news media, radio, and social media services were also seized. Utilizing the emergency alert system, which provided communication capability to address the nation during a national emergency, it required all radio and television broadcasters, cable TV, wireless cable systems, satellite operators to provide capability to address the people during a national emergency. This effectively bypassed the mainstream media's controlled news to all US citizens. A period of public enlightenment. During this time, a state of national emergency was declared and martial law was put in place. Normal television programming was interrupted for 8 hours a day for 10 days, revealing to the public the history of this cabal and their criminal plans they had for humanity, showing incontrovertible proof of their crimes. The world unites. The world, becoming aware that they have been deceived and played by the criminals of humanity, now united in recognizing its true enemy and to bring justice and liberation of our planet. With all the criminals of humanity identified and apprehended, the International Criminal Court trials were televised to the world, as each criminal was brought forth and appropriately sentenced for their crimes against humanity. The world celebrates. Now, with the criminals of the cabal no longer in places of power and influence, massive changes were now allowed to happen in a benevolent way for all of the people of Earth. Across the planet, there is great joy and celebration for the liberation of Earth from these dark forces against humanity. The Great Reset begins. Now, after decades of secrecy and deception perpetrated upon the people of Earth, with the people now fully aware of the cabal's nefarious plans they had for them, are grateful for their liberation from these dark elements, which will now allow the world to catch up and bring forth the world that has been taken from them for many decades. So now the world enters into a great reset in a way that benefits all the people of Earth, rather than enslaving them as the cabal had planned. Advanced technologies released. The Invention Secrecy Act that had been suppressing thousands of inventions since the 1950s are now able to be released to benefit humanity. Electrical power. Zero-point energy systems now replace obsolete, dangerous, polluting sources of nuclear, oil, and coal, as nuclear and coal power plants are decommissioned to be retrofitted with clean, non-polluting zero-point energy plants to power all of the homes and businesses that are connected to the power grid. While the people are still connected to the power grid, mass robot manufacturing of small, compact zero-point energy generators are being produced by the millions, so that every home and business can disconnect from the grid independently in a decentralized manner. Eventually, every home and business was disconnected from the grid, which allowed removal and recycling of all the ugly transmission lines strung across the planet. Transportation. The internal combustion engines, which will be phased out, could be, with a simple modification, made to run on hydrogen from water, eliminating the need for gasoline and pollution during the transition. Electric vehicles could have their storage batteries replaced with onboard zero-point energy generators, which run indefinitely the electric motor and never needs to be recharged. New generation vehicles are not only self-powered, but do not require wheels and tires, as anti-gravity technologies allow these vehicles to go where there are no roads. Transportation. The airline industry is now utilizing the anti-gravity technology to transport humans from one place on the planet to another, not hours, but in minutes. Space travel to other planets and the hub outside of Jupiter is now a reality in interacting with other galactic cultures in our galaxy. Teleportation is also another option to move from one location to another instantaneously. Communications. A new quantum communication system utilizing the principles of quantum entanglement replaces the distance-limited and biologically harmful electromagnetic communication systems. The obsolete cell phone towers across the planet are being dismantled. Internet. The new quantum internet allows practically instantaneous, secure access to greater data from any location. The obsolete transmissions over Wi-Fi and fiber optic cable is replaced. Financial. A new quantum financial system replaces our easily corruptible monetary system that has been used by the cabal to control the world. All bank accounts of citizens are transitions out of control of the corrupt banking system into the control of the people. Medical. The corrupt medical and pharmaceutical corporations that operate for profit are totally replaced with the release of advanced holographic medical technologies, alleviating all suffering from sickness and disease. Lifespans can now be realized into the hundreds of years. Overpopulation is not a concern, with remote areas now able to be habitable, as well as off-planet colony locations. The basic needs of food, water, shelter, and clothing are now available to everyone. Food is now abundant and healthy and is no longer being weaponized for a eugenics agenda. Contact with other worlds. For many decades, the cabal has denied the existence of extraterrestrial contact to the people, and the fact that the Germans, working with the corporations of the military-industrial complex, had developed anti-gravity craft that was used in their secret space program and had infiltrated to control our perceptions through the information systems and space agency to hide that reality. While our US Navy developed its own secret space program and entered into an alliance with benevolent off-planet cultures of the Galactic Federation of Worlds. Our planet, now liberated from the dark criminal elements as well as their regressive extraterrestrial overlords that Elena mentioned, can now no longer detrimentally affect the billions of lives on Earth ever again. This allows our planet to evolve peacefully, and therefore being governed by a benevolent planetary council permits our world to join the Galactic Federation of Worlds and allows the people of Earth to benefit from the knowledge and wisdom of cultures thousands of years in evolution. Looking back at the past challenges, children now studying through a vast library depository of knowledge are looking back through history at the tremendous challenges that the people of Earth face that has brought them to today's world. Gratitude for the new world. The people vowed to never allow this to ever happen again to their beloved planet and are filled with gratitude for all those who contributed in the past to reset the path to the beautiful new world they now experience. End of story. Ta-da!
Wow, brilliant. Sorry, there I am catching up on production notes there. Beautiful. Thank you so very much indeed. Oh, Lord, we've lost Jane again. Are you there, Jane?
Yes, I'm here.
Juanita Bonita, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you not hear me?
Now I can hear you. Your reflections on that presentation.
Well, this is where creation currency comes in, our valuable creation currency, because we're going to really need it for all of these new technologies and everything. We're all going to be getting very busy making all these dreams for our future possible. So we have to go into high gear and get our creation neurons fired up in our brains and do everything we can to realize the fact that artistry and the aesthetics of the earth is about to change so drastically that we are going to need all of our creative capacity in order to fulfill these dreams and these new technologies coming forward. But at the same time, we have to recognize when we're putting our creation currency into the old agenda, we have to withdraw our energy and our creativity from that agenda in order to move forward on behalf of the angelic human race to make it happen.
Beautiful. Thank you. Elena, I wanted to ask you, and I promised the audience earlier in a media drop that I would ask you again the question to recount your first engagement with the Zeta Reticuli. And I do so for a reason, because although the subject matter of alien interventionism and genetic manipulation and all the fact that the human is the galactic hybrid, that's stuff that is very commonplace in our circles, our echelon. But for those people who are new to this whole subject matter and who are having a major psycho-spiritual kind of crash and burn complex, it's happening to a lot of souls around the world right now. especially the more mundane, let's say the more mundane religious mind, is having to disassemble itself from so much cult programming in what is normal, what is, Darwinism, theory of evolution, having this kind of Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, religious, iconic. Put it this way: religion is idolatry. Mainstream religion is pure idolatry. It's false light worship. It's cult programming. And what it's managed to do in the mainframe is essentially dislocate billions of souls, hundreds of millions, if not billions of souls from their flame of truth, from their true knowing and their true being. And now that we're going through this calamity, end of days stuff, mRNA intervention, apocalypse playing out, calamity, geoengineering, call it what you will, it's still an apocalypse for many. People need to hear the kind of pacific voice that you represent in the world. One, you're a highly accomplished academic. You're a field researcher. You're someone who goes out there. You've not sat behind a desk. You've been in the bowels, in the deserts, under the Sphinx and the pyramids in Egypt. You've been on the front line of academic inquiry in the field. You are an exceptional soul. You very courageously, I believe, positioned yourself in the flame of pure truth. You are a direct conduit to the Galactic Federation. You're a direct conduit to our Anunnaki God King complex. You are in direct communion there. So you've got a very unique voice. And because of the way that you speak to these subjects, you get the attention of even the pedestrian and the mundane mind. They'll actually listen to you. They'll give you their attention. They won't listen to me, less necessarily. So speaking to that mindset, that religious, pedestrian, Christian mindset, who are just listening into this broadcast, there's a hell of a lot of people watching, incidentally. We've got a huge audience today, huge audience. How do you explain your genesis into this arena? How do you explain your first interaction with Zeta Reticula? Can you just take us back to that story and walk us through it psychologically, emotionally, spiritually?
Well, this unfortunate event that happened when I was 9 years old gave me a voice to come forward on the stage of disclosure, and then the rest of my mission unfolded. This was a horrible physical event that happened to me when I was 9 years old. I was, as many millions of children are, abducted by small gray aliens from Zeta Reticuli. And I was taken on board a ship, and I was, they did horrible things to me that I describe in my book. They're quite difficult to talk about, but they butchered me a little bit. And I was being prepared to be part of the hybridization program, like all the little girls are that they abduct. But I was rescued in the process on that gray ship by two tall blonde Nordic aliens in spacesuits. They beamed on board, and there was a fight, and they rescued me, and they brought me on board their ship. They teleported me there, and they took care of me. There was a whole crew on that new ship, and this ship, I learned later, was part of the Galactic Federation of Worlds, and these people conduct a lot of rescue of children, and I was one of them. I also had a link with my rescuers. One of them was part of my soul group. So that's why this person was following me. So these people, these members of the Galactic Federation of Worlds, their name was Thorhan Eredion, Valnek Oroyan, Myra and Seladion. I have kept this story secret all my life until 2019, when I decided to come forward and write a book that was published in early 2020, A Gift from the Stars, where I, with my own artworks as well, I depict everything that happened to me and how these positive ETs from the Federation kept contact with me physically. That's very important. I'm not a channeler. I'm not a downloader. I'm not a new age person. I'm a physical contactee. I'm a physical experiencer since childhood. These people would beam in my bedroom physically, or they would beam me on board their ship physically, and I would go for trips in space. They would show me the commands of the ship. I would be familiarized with all this universe since I was a child. And when it became more serious later, when I remembered who I was and my mission activated, when they took me on board a ship in 2018, again, after a while where I had no contact for a few years, and they say now extraordinary things are going to happen for Earth, and we are very excited. So we are going to reactivate your memory, and you're going to come forward to operate your mission. Little did I know at that moment it was in 2018, and well, Dark Night of the Soul, etc. And I remember who I was, and at that moment they made me the emissary of the Galactic Federation. It's physical. All the messages I get are by technology or physical contact. And I want to make the point is very important. I'm not a channeler, and I know who I'm talking to because I have physical encounters. So that's my genesis in the disclosure community.
What percentage of humanity do you believe have been abducted or had some kind of first contact experience, even if they don't remember it in the way that you've been reprogrammed to remember and have that fluid quantum memory? Many people are contacted and are engaged in, or have been engaged, let's say, in hybridization, in experimentation, and so on. Would you say it's 10%, 50%, 100% of humanity? What's your takeaway on that?
Regarding alien abduction by the nefarious ETs, there's been millions per year since the 1950s, 1955, the agreement with the MJ12 with the Greys. I'd say maybe 20% of humanity, probably. It's a very vague number. That's regarding abductions. Now you have another form of contact, okay? There's a lot of people on Earth who are envoys. Many call themselves starseeds. We call them envoys. The envoys are part of programs to come and incarnate in these times of change to help humans of Earth, the real humans, to shift into their true sovereignty and liberate themselves. So all the starseeds come from somewhere else, but it is not about them. It is not about the envoys. They are here to assist the humans. What we celebrate, let us not forget, is the indigenous human souls from the Earth planetary matrix. These are the important ones that we are coming to assist.
Very good. Is it fair to say that every single human being is a galactic hybrid? I mean, that's a self-explanatory statement, right?
Oh yes, that because that is true, because regarding the 65 million years ago, when we call them the Patal, the Cedars, the Intergalactic Confederation came and decided to help Earth go back to a natural state, because at that moment the Earth was taken by reptilians. So they leveled ground zero, and they allowed all the life to strive again in all balance, and every type of life had their chance. And at that moment, that was the first step. And then they came back to help engineer the first humans from a local creature. That was an experiment. They are seeders of life. So we're all hybrids.
Right. Very good. And is it safe to say, right, we're all hybrids. Is it safe to say that there are absolutely categorically no further any abductions, that kind of interventionism has ceased and desists altogether, correct?
From the bad ETs, yes, it has ceased. But there has been a program that was really, really vast and important. The MILAB, the military abductions. This was operated by the deep state, especially in the United States, in what we know as the dumps, deep underground military bases. This was a place where the U.S. Air Force mainly was conducting human experiment in collaboration also with the what became of the Nazis after the war, Operation Paperclip. Well, all these guys were working together and together with the Greys. So there was a program where Grey hybrids were engineered. And so people would be abducted by a spaceship with little Greys in it. But these ones wouldn't be taken in space. They would be brought into the military underground bases because these hybrids would belong to the human military. Okay. And they would do operations there. And many abductees recall to wake up in an underground base and see human militaries around them, and they don't understand. A second before they were on a spaceship. So, and this may continue. There are some a little bit of this, but this is the end of it. It's only human abductions, but it's touching an end.
Very good. You're breaking up a little bit, Elena, just so you know. We're getting you breaking up ever so slightly. Dan, are you hearing me okay?
I'm hearing you fine. I noticed when someone's speaking, there's a little sound artifact echoing in the background. I think if everyone mutes when someone's speaking, it might solve that.
Okay, fine. So what I wanted to throw something up here, and I've got a whole series of these photographs from the Buccetti Mountain underground alien base that was discovered a number of years ago, and was put out by Radu. I can't remember the surname. A remarkable soul. I know from my own engagement with the military intelligence community in Romania, I know the veracity, the truth of this scenario. I'm painfully aware of it. The whole of the Buccetti facility has been sequestered and locked down by US/NATO military forces. So there's no access to the perimeters, certainly no access into the facility. But the images, I want to run through a series of these images. And Elena, this is a very selfish on my part. I wanted to show you these images as a reminder so that I could possibly invite you to communicate the next time you are in direct communication with Enlil. I'd be deeply grateful if you would qualify a question that I have, a burning question about this particular underground alien facility in Romania. It is my intimation that this is connected to the genesis point of where Ninhursag was involved in the scientific hybridization of the seeding of humanity. I've got a deep intimation and intuition that this facility in Romania was arguably the Anunnaki or an Anunnaki scientific facility. And I'd be so grateful if you could look at these photographs and then as and when you're able to have the communication, confirm whether or not Romania, the Buccetti Mountain facility, was indeed connected to the genesis point of this seeding of humanity through the Anunnaki. These are the images. I'm just going to go through them here. Quite extraordinary images, I have to say. I can't speak to any of them really, other than to say that the cave systems are up to almost 1.5 kilometers in height. So their entire kind of biosphere going on down there with geoluminescence and all sorts of bizarre discoveries have been made. These were the initial images, photographic images that were leaked out of the facility. I believe these are huge effigies. The tunnel systems, we're told, extend through to other continents from under the Buchechi Mountains. I think that there's 5 different directional tunnels. They are monumental in scale. The laboratory, the main laboratory, I don't know if we've got an image of it here, but was built for giants. The tables are about 3 meters in height. And apparently there's some kind of a button on the main laboratory table, whereupon when you place your hand on it, it catalyzes something, arguably through the blood song or the DNA resonance, and then activates some kind of holographic projection into a dome, which is the main laboratory. And as I understand it, it creates some kind of plasmoid holographic imagery, which takes the individual on a journey into understanding their own cosmogenesis. So it threads the whole tapestry of their soul to the resonance of their DNA in the present moment. And they're able to actually move through this extraordinary holographic projection. So that's something which I've been told occurs uniformly. That's a pyramid inside, or pyramids inside the cave system. So these pyramids extend upward, I think, about 1/4 kilometer in a straight line upward, and then go even higher to about 1.2 kilometers until you hit the top of the underground alien facility, or the cave system.
Interesting. It looks like a 60-degree angle, doesn't it, Elena?
Yes, yes. Well, when you finish, I can really help you with that.
Okay.
We talk about that.
That's another image there of the pyramids. So some of the technology seems to be paramagnetic, stone-based, silica-based, and others are metalloidal, some sort of non-corruptible alloy, given that these must be hundreds of thousands of years old at the very least. I think that's an image of the holographic projection dome. And again, the reason why I think this is actually interesting and in context is because of the work that you guys are doing. I mean, you know, we talk about this. This is my Vajra from Southeast Asia, from Indonesia. Right, exactly. And you guys are at the forefront of resurrecting this creation technology with the work that you're doing, and which I'm certainly planning on helping you to get out as widely as possible. But the Vajra Dorj, you know, another question here, was there red mercury involved in this technology in some sense? Was there red mercury involved? Not. Okay.
No, it's a
what was inside? What was in the center point? What was this component?
So the center point is a sphere that contains a crystal ball in quartz crystal sphere in it, and the sphere by itself, the metallic sphere, which is metallic, has a mechanism that when you press it, it's an exponential pressure that is going to compress exponentially with a tremendous strength the crystal that is in the middle. But because the pressure is applied uniformly around the crystal will not breach or break, but it will create a compression wave that will be so powerful that it will create a piezoelectric effect that will ignite the plasma that is in the tubes on the side. It will create a spark of plasma, a very powerful spark. And the prongs, when you press it suddenly, clack, the prongs open, and there's a crystal point at the end of it. So the plasma is going to ignite the crystal, and the crystal is going to project a plasmic beam of energy either side. It's a double laser sword, like in Star Wars. Sorry.
It's like it's Luke Skywalker, destruction, anti-destruction, right? Right.
Both are destructive. It's a weapon. It's a weapon that was very common among the Anachim. Now it's a relic for them. They do not use this anymore. It's a relic from the past, but they used to have these weapons. Yes. And,
okay, so I've been misrepresenting, and I apologize to members of my audience who've been misled by my bumbling ignorance. It was my understanding that this technology was both a creation and a destruction technology and could be used to ideate and manifest. No?
Not really. It's a weapon. After that, you can put symbolical vision on this object, because this object resembles the tree of life. It can be really subject to meditation, but that's the physical visual aspect of it. In fact, it was a deadly weapon.
Okay, very good. And Luke Skywalker used it purely as a defensive technology to kill or to defend. So again, it wasn't something which was manifesting things into the realm. It was something to protect and defend, to use for protection and defense. So what is the difference now between this technology, the Vajra Dorj, and the technology which you and Dan are working on, which you've been transcoding from the Galactic Federation, from Genhan Iridion, and you are taking forward this crystal, Vogel crystal with a 52 and 60 degree lattice work cut angle, and you hold that technology, and again, you compress it, and it's got other elements there, which Dan will speak to momentarily. But once you've got that technology, it's calibrated to a unique quantum frequency, which is a creation frequency. And that is something that will manifest into the field positive impact. Yes?
Yes. I mean, I will let Dan Willis explain further about this. I just wanted to say, I know you're very excited. I'm very excited as well to have this conversation. You asked me insight about the busage. First, I'm communicating with Enki. I certainly not going to communicate with Enlil, who is the evil twin.
I'm so sorry. Yes.
No, you know, and your tongue just slipped. But to make sure with the audience,
Very good.
I'm very familiar with these technologies. Okay, and I want to speak honestly here. I also I'm close to Ninorsa. Her laboratory, yes, the busage, it was an Anunnaki or Anach laboratory for genetic experiments. There were many laboratories. There were many different teams, the good guys and the bad guys, which was the Enlil faction. So there are many different places on Earth who are laboratories. The busage is a big one. Ninorsa had was involved with the good positive side. She had her main laboratory on the Nibiru ship, in the Eden of the Nibiru ship. But the busage is effectively involved. It's a facility where scientists, Anach scientists from the Enki Ia faction were working. It's fit to their size, and so I can confirm that.
Well, that's very, very helpful. Thank you. I'm just trying to pull up an image of Nin Hussad there. The only one that comes up is that. She looks very beautiful. What do they look like? I mean, how tall are they in comparison to a human, the Anunnaki that you are brought before?
Well, the original body, it's about, I'm going to speak in meters because that's my metric system to be sure. Let's say 2 meters 50 to 3 meters high, but mainly 2 meters 50. Usually it's the average normal size of the Anahim. When they came to Earth, they fit themselves into avatars to be able to strive in the conditions on Earth of atmospheric and etc. pressure, gravity. So most of the time the avatars would be bigger, taller. So that's when we're talking about giants. But their consciousness would be retrieved to the ship where the normal body was. Yeah.
And historically, the difference between the giants and the titans, because there's this notion that preceding the giants, there were titans, and arguably, we've been given very compelling or shown compelling what would appear to be forensic, geological forensic evidences that even preceding the titans were creatures that were so vast in this world that when they met their demise, they ended up calcifying or concretizing into mountain ranges. I mean, it becomes an extraordinary labyrinthine story. But what is your understanding of the giants, the titans, and anything bigger and bolder that existed before even the titans?
Well, the Earth had known creatures that are now either extinct or either went to inner Earth for protection. There were beings that were quite giant, but also, among the experiments that have been going on with the Anunnaki, with the Anahim, their real name, there were also experiments that involved giant hybrids, or hybrids. When we say giant, imagine at the time, a giant now would be these people 2 meters 50 high, for instance. At the time, humans on Earth, they were smaller, way smaller. We could even now, modern humans, be giants for them. You know what I mean? So you have to consider this as well. And there were different types of extraterrestrials coming to Earth along the ages that have, but not the Elohim, the other ones. Well, there was a race of giant hybrids as well that are still sometimes found on Earth, still alive in certain places on Earth.
Fantastic. Dan, your reflections.
Well, I'm just extremely grateful to be able to exchange with Jen Hanna-Redion since April of 2022. We've been having technological exchanges on understanding the science of crystals, which is something I got involved with, back in the 1980s with Dr. Marcel Vogel. The thing that's fascinating, what I'm learning is how reality comes into manifestation and the different densities that are in this particular dimension that we're in, and how they have given a gift of a tool to be able to access the singularity, or some they're called the void, where when consciousness interfaces with that, it allows that to be imprinted into a higher level. You have to understand the higher levels of manifestation create the lower levels, not vice versa. And with let's say with a crystal, you can see I have a little piece of tape marked. There's 2 angles that are cut on the crystal. I'll show you on a presentation here real quick.
So that's our Vogel 52 60-degree cut.
Yeah, it is, if you can see that. Is that being displayed? Oh, there we go. This was something that we had to get special authorization from the High Command of the Galactic Federation in order to share this, because of a question that I asked. It turns out that if you cut the crystal in alignment with the hexagonal core of the lattice structure, and you cut one termination at a 51.84 or 52 degree angle, same as the Great Pyramid, and the same angle that quartz naturally terminates that. It acts as a transponder in the matrix. In other words, it's a receptive quality. While the other end is a 60-degree angle. And the 60-degree angle is, as seen in the flower of life, where you see the tetrahedral fractal geometry, every tetrahedron is 60 degrees. And so this acts as a resonance into the holographic matrix. And so you have these two different ratios that both create a spinning vortex that reflect upon each other. And Jen Han has shown Elena that how this meets is if you take the angle of one and the angle of the other, it approximates the area of what's called the eye of the crystal. This is a vortex that's created that opens up a singularity. And when your consciousness is at a level of gamma brainwaves, which is depicted, you know, when someone is in a loving, compassionate state, you have, what's wonderful about the structure of the matrix is that love allows the energies to transcend through the densities. And so when you're in that state and you link with your consciousness into the crystal, and that vortex is opened when you piezoelectrically stimulate it. In other words, a crystal, as everybody knows, when you squeeze a crystal, you get an electrical charge out of it, or you put an electrical pulse on it and it will physically vibrate. It works both ways. So when you stimulate the lattice structure, where I put my fingers in this area where the eye is, and I pulse my breath, the breath is connected with our consciousness to project thoughts. And so when you pulse your breath, as Marcel discovered and as Jen Han confirmed, like a Kundalini type of fire like that through your nostrils, and project it and squeeze at the same time and sync, you can link into this singularity that can alter reality.
So my question there to both you and Elena, in respect of that, I get the pulsing of the breath, I get the compression of the crystal, but my question here is, what is the connection between the compression and the pressure that you put on the crystal and your own blood song, your own fractal torsion scalar plasma field that's coming out of your blood song? Like if I have a particular cosmogenetic predisposition, does that give me an advantage over using a technology like this, that if I'm a more low frequency iteration of the human? Does that make sense?
Well, when you say low frequency, I take the that could be termed a dissonant frequency, you know, as in Dr. Emoto's work, you know, where dissonance can't take form into the crystallization of water. If you, as Jen Han says, dissonance cannot attune to an ordered state of geometrical resonance. In other words, the matrix is such that if you have an ill thought, a dissonant thought, like say you hate somebody or something, you know, you want to do something bad, you know, the pattern is dissonant and it does not resonate with the matrix, and it will not allow it to transcend the densities.
So Elena, this is the ultimate creation technology for us in our evolution, not right now, because you have to be resonating at frequency X and above in order to be able to make use of it. Yes.
Yes, totally. These technologies work on basic creative technology, creation technology works with a certain level of equilibrium, of balance, and of resonance in the frequency. Otherwise, it doesn't match the mechanism. You cannot. So there's this state of resonance in your frequency field is what allows you to pass through frequency shields, for instance. That's why in the Radu Cinema series that you are mentioning, the people who have the right resonant frequency can pass through frequency shield not others who are still in a state of dissonance and anger and fright, fear, etc. You have also, these technologies we're talking about, mentioning the Anahim technology, like such as in the voyage, it works with two different things, a DNA interface and consciousness interface. So to work these technologies, you need to have, DNA emits a pulse, a frequency key, a frequency signature. So if you have the right percentage, minimum of percentage of a certain DNA corresponding, matching the DNA of the people who built these technologies in your bodies, if you have that, you can interface biologically and start it, activate it. The technology will recognize the DNA frequency and will switch on. But to be able to then work it, use it, you need a consciousness interface. And a consciousness interface is something more difficult because it's a consciousness soul frequency that matches, that is part of the group of the souls who build these machines. So you need to be, for instance, an Anahim, an Anach or Anunnaki incarnated in these avatars. You may have, it may not be, Anunnaki may not be your home planetary matrix from the start, but if you have lived at least one life among them, you kept the consciousness imprint, the frequency imprint of this DNA that once your avatar carried. So you record everything, your consciousness records everything, all the DNAs you've been inhabiting. So it works. So you need DNA and consciousness match to get to use these technologies, special markers.
Fantastic. Jane, the meek inherit the earth, and we also get to play with Luke Skywalker technologies in the fifth dimensional sense. I mean, how exciting is that? Talk to us about your reflections so far, and unmute your mic. Unmute your microphone. Jane!
I believe that a lot of this technology, Sasha, could be revamped and upped if we all got our male and female balance within our own bodies corrected. We've got too much male over here and not enough female over there. And I believe once we have that aligned within us, we'll be able to reach this unified consciousness where this technology can be used much more efficiently. And we have to come out of the dust of this academia, the great forgetting. It's piling up, and we have to be able to remove ourselves with our consciousness from all the dregs and the mess that we've come out of in order to be in a fresh state of mind to evolve into this new era of technology that we're going into. So we're coming into this age of remembrance or all-knowing. And how do you get to all-knowing? You align your soul, your heart, your sacral energies, and you trust the cosmic wisdom to give you the information that you need for any situation. So you're not relying on all this academia, the books and the history books and all the lies. And so we're moving forward using our God-given first source design that we were given in the very, very beginning to move forward and to access our DNA as the original source code that we were given. And that's everything that we need to remember right now in order to make this transition and this move and to be able to be strong enough to help others come along with us and trust us. And in doing so, we will be removing fear. Our male side will give us the strength to move forward, and our nurturing feminine side will give us the impetus we need and the determination to bring back the mother, the eternal mother energy into the realm so that we can create this harmony that we're looking for.
I mean, presumably that's why we were designed in the way that we are. And presumably that's why the cauldron of creation in this quadrant, at least of the universe, is one that is predicated on the laws of duality. I mean, everything is on the checkerboard, so to speak, and we have to harmonize. We ultimately, all of expression, all incarnation forces us to go into phase coherence with those dual aspects at every level. But we've got this kind of Tavistockian Fabianistic agenda, as you and I speak to at great length, Jane, about scrambling the dialectic and turning little boys into little girls and making whatever you want acceptable and normalizing perversion in that sense. So it becomes a very, very kind of distressed time within which we can expect people to find that harmonium and that equilibrium. Just speak to that momentarily.
Well, I think it starts with discarding everything that we've been taught and going within to find our true selves. Because once we realize this complete transgender agenda is toward post-humanism, then we can turn around and revere the male and the female, the divine masculine and the divine feminine again, and say no to all this. Just like Leonardo da Vinci, they said he cut up bodies in order to improve his great artistic abilities. No, he was under the Medicis, the medics. They were prying and poking in our bodies just as much as those caves. I'm so happy to know you were right, Sasha. They were working on us, on our DNA, and trying to fiddle and fart around with the human body to such a degree that we could never, ever remember who we really are. And this is the point in time of our lives. We've come millions of years to get to this place. So I ask everybody to just try to remember who you really are and embrace the original source code within us. And don't look around for answers. And you can't legislate love and tolerance. It's just a human thing. We're good people. We are the angelics. It's the soulless that have created this terrible, terrible world. And we are going to change it together. And that will take women becoming their authentic selves and rising up with men, the divine masculine, and together going forward from this point. Knowing that we were at one time perfect, and we will go back to that.
Very good. Elena, pedestrian questions. I'm trying to look through comments coming through here, and there's thousands of them. The connection between the Anunnaki and the reptilian Draco and Yahweh, Jehovah. Describe where those components fit into the Gestalt.
The Anunnaki or Anakim are a compound of different races and species. Among them, you have the Anunnaki who are of a human strand, that's generalization, and the Anunnaki who are of a reptilian strand. How does this fit is that the Anunnaki that came to Earth for the great expedition, the Kashkal, were half human, the Enki side, because Enki's mother was Anunnaki human, so he was human, and Enlil, his half brother from the same father, Anu, had his mother reptilian. The mother of Enlil was Sikaar, or Draco-reptilian strand of genetics, a Sikaar queen from Orion, Queen Tia. So Enlil was half reptilian Sikaar, and that's when the Sikaar Draco-reptilian come into mingling with the Anunnaki experiment, because it's a long story, but the King Anu had to marry a Sikaar queen for diplomatic reason in Orion and have a son, Enlil, who would rule over the empire, although the rightful heir was Enki or Ea. All these people arrived on Earth, and that's when Enlil, the reptilian Anunnaki one, wanted to enslave humanity as slave workers, and Enki said, no, these are amazing bodies and souls, and they have such a potential. I want to activate, I don't want to enslave them. So that's why they were arguing, there were wars, and there were two strands of genetics, two strands of genetic experimentation. Okay, and that's when the famous royal reptilian families of Earth come from, and they are and Anunnaki and Draco-Reptilian. That's where the confusion, are they this or that? No, they're both, because they come from the Enlil stream bloodline of Draco-Reptilian, Anunnaki-Reptilian bloodline. That's what they came from. Yahweh was Enlil. There are archaeological evidence. I'm actually preparing a video about that with Corina Pataki. We've been through the archaeological evidence and the scriptures, Bible evidence. Yahweh is Enlil, the bloodthirsty God. And there are two strands of royal bloodlines. The royal bloodlines of Enlil, Anunnaki, Reptilian, the evil royal families. And there's another royal strand. It's the royal bloodline of Enki, Ea, that gave the patriarch, Adam and Eve, the patriarchs, Yeshua, and the activated bloodlines. That's two different strands. I don't know if it answers your question, Sasha.
Yeah, well, it's getting there. And again, I'm trying to just, I'm trying to put very straightforward, reductive questions to you, because we're going to a big mainstream audience that's not even my own audience, because we're syndicating here. So I'm interested again in those people sitting in their living room listening to this insane conversation a bunch of crackerjacks are having, but are actually interested because they're sensing that it may be offering them some real enlightenment to get them out of their cult programmed entrapment. So what is the relationship between Moses? Who was the creature that Moses met on top of Mount Sinai?
It wasn't a good one. I think it was, I have all reasons to believe it was Enlil. This character was horrible when, when the Moses and his people were saying to this God, "We're starving, please give food to my people." And he would say, they rather receive fire if they complain, and they would send fire darts at them, things like that. He was a horrible, bloodthirsty tyrant, Yahweh. He was really awful. He wanted virgins for himself. He said, "Sacrifice your kids, give me all the virgins for myself." He was a horrible person. And when Yeshua came, he said, "Hey, this guy, your father is not my father," he said to the priest of Yahweh, and that's why he ended up not well.
Okay. So was Jehovah and Yahweh the same?
No. Sorry. Yes. The same. Yes, the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what is the relationship between what we refer to as Anu and Ra?
Anu is the emperor of the Anak Empire. Is a Ra. Ra means supreme ruler. Okay, and Anu as the emperor is the Ata Ra, the high supreme ruler of the empire. Ra means supreme ruler. It's a title, and Marduk had this title of Ra as well on Earth.
Right. So Moses, in that sense, was communicating with an angry, jealous God and taking the dictate from an angry, jealous God to become the frameworking of that aspect of the Judeo-Christic history. It was all framed within fear, terror,
Yes.
and subjugation, yes, to the dominion of this all-powerful God that we had to worship and offer lambs and babes up for sacrifice to appease. Insane.
It was insane. Yes, and people, it's a shock for the Christians to realize this. I'm not the only one to bring this truth. You have people like Mauro Billino, or researchers and people who really know the text and the history and the real history, true history. But I have to say, it's not a big deal for the Christian. It seems to be, but in fact, what is Christianity? You have to say, to rethink it. Christianity is not an institution that will control you by fear and putting you on your knees. Christianity is all about love, about the connection with God, / creator / source. The message of Yeshua, who came from the Enki good bloodline, positive, the patriarchs, the bloodline of Enki and Ninosa. Yeshua was teaching love, compassion. He was an ascended master, and this is Christianity. This is Christ consciousness. What is
Right.
Christ
Christ
consciousness?
consciousness.
It is the
Right.
frequency of the Christ genetics. This bloodline, okay? The bloodline of Enki. And it is a frequency that the genetic frequency of compassion. That's Christ consciousness. And when the prophecy said Christ will return, it's not Jesus who will return, it's Christ consciousness. The frequency of the bloodline has returned into our solar system in 2021. It's Enki, the father of this bloodline. His frequency has blasted an activation on all the descendants, and there are millions of this bloodline because they have bred and multiplied on this planet. There are many.
Right. So we've come of age in that sense, and the resurrection of the angelic template is assured through that civilizational alchemy. Another question coming through here: what's the distinction between what we refer to as Amen Ra and Ra?
Ra is a title, and Amen was Marduk. In fact, Marduk was the god Amen, the hidden one. Imen means the hidden one. It was Marduk. That's confirmed by archaeology, and it took the title of Ra, the supreme ruler Amun. Ra was in ancient Egypt title for the sun god, the supreme sun god, but then it was associated with all the other gods. You could have Horus Ra, Amun Ra, Atum Ra. That means they are supreme rulers. They are rulers, not supreme. Sorry, they are rulers. But
so if Moses was engaging with an angry, jealous God, who was Master Yeshua engaging with, and who was Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, engaging with, interacting with?
Yeshua would be involved with his real father of his bloodline, would be Ea or Enki. And these Anunnaki were playing gods. Well, Enki never played God. He was always humble and compassionate. But Enlil and Marduk and Ninurta. So who are they? Ninurta is the biological firstborn of Enlil. He's reptilian, Ninurta, and he is as bad-tempered as his father. Who is Marduk? Marduk was the son of Enki, beautiful human kid that whom Enlil subverted to the dark side, just to harm his father Enki, and utilized Marduk against his father as a weapon. He weaponized him against his father, and Marduk was groomed by his uncle Enlil to become the most horrible person. Marduk is Lucifer, okay? The fallen one, fallen in frequency, not from the sky, that rebelled against his father Enki and led armies against his father, who was Enki. Marduk is Lucifer, and that was the greatest wound of Enki, to have his son turned into this horrible thing that he became.
Right. Okay. So is Enki Enlil apocryphally the story of Cain and Abel in simple terms?
No, because I wouldn't say that, because Cain and Abel, it's also symbolizing the fight between two brothers, but they were descendants of Adam and Eve, so they were not at the top. They were not the original part of the original extraterrestrial founders of these bloodlines.
Okay, and my last question to you, which is a real toughie, I think, and Jane, you're going to enjoy this one. All of the conversations we're having about the genesis point of the gods, the god kings, the progenitors of man, we refer to them all going back up to the Amen Ra, the God, the Jehovah, the Yahweh, and above. where does the mother feature in any of this? Who or where do we identify the mother that was also the progenitor of all of these elemental gods and god kings?
You know, the winners write history, and they obliterate the mothers, the role of the Anunnaki women in all of this, because it became a patriarchal system. Well, female and Anachim were as much involved in these genetic operations as the male Anachim. We're going to talk about the positive experiment of activation of these bloodlines, who are the experimentations led by Enki and his scientists. But he was working with this lady Ninhursag, who was his cousin, actually. You know, in these languages, sister, she was not his biological sister, she was his cousin, but sister means wife, can mean sister, can mean cousin, so it's a generic term. She was his cousin, and she was a geneticist. She was very, very, very good. She was the one who worked with him relentlessly to activate these first humans and saved a bloodline of activated ones. They had many tries with Adam and Eve, and they finally came up with the right male, Adapa, and then they wanted to activate a female. But when they activated the female, Ninhursag put her genetics in the female. And the last female, the completion of this work was Hawa, Eve. Why did she give the deactivation to this female, that this female would transmit the activation to the male? Because the female is a divine conduit for creation. The female body, human female body, is a vortex that is able to welcome a fractal of consciousness from source directly. Females have the direct creative conduit to source. So activating a female in all her capability is creating a being that is going to be a walking vortex, connecting directly to creator, and everything she will touch, say, do will activate. And that's the moment when Ninhursag is represented by the serpent. What is the serpent? This double male-female inside coil that is our power core along the spine, but also the DNA, the double coil of the DNA that is present in all the cells. When these two things are activated, when the Kundalini, as we call it, it activates the little one in all the cells, the DNA coils, and you become a vortex, walking vortex. So the serpent was Ninhursag, and she gave the knowledge. But why the knowledge? Because when this is activated, the pineal gland blasts, and you have direct connection with all the knowledge of the universe, because you are human and you are fractal of God. And to really help the Christians understand that the serpent has been demonized, the woman has been demonized, there's a reason for that. There's nothing more beautiful than a woman carrying a child in her body. All creators created are fractal of the creator. Everything in the universe that is sentient is a child of God. There is no aliens or demons, blah, blah. No, they are also children of God, just born on other worlds. We need now to, I'm addressing the Christians, broaden our vision and open our heart at the same width to encompass the understanding that all creation is children of the creator. We're all fractals of source, creator. We are made at the image of God, Not the bodies, guys, not the bodies, the soul, the soul. So that's what you, I would say, you need to know.
Well, very, very, very beautifully put. Thank you very much for that. So we're winding down here, friends, to the end of the conversation. And, you know, as I was listening to Elena there, it occurred to me that, because I was also listening to the echo of my own question, which to me is a really important question. The theme that's been driving me for the last year and a half to 2 years has been this thing that I've been calling the resurrection of the eternal mother. And I'm having to investigate in my mind and my heart, what the fuck do I mean by that? Why is it a theme that's compelling me to be the narrative that emerges behind all that I'm doing in community development, in technological innovation, in activism, in why is that a theme that I am sensing is the emergent core narrative to the emergent gestalt? And I think I kind of got the answer in a bit of a meditation whilst Elena was explaining very beautifully her thoughts on the matter. The Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, the Enkis, the Enlils, these angry, jealous gods, these prophets who've all got beards, all of that masculine, patriarchal, patrimonial, theatrical, blah, blah, is all taking place under the aegis and with the backdrop of the mother who bears witness to the issue of all of that. So there you have it. It's the cauldron of creation, the void, the truest womb in that sense of creation, of ideation. Surely that's the living principle of the eternal mother, which now we bring into threading the camel through the eye of the needle. We bring that entire backdrop of creation, of mythos, of the fabric of reality. We now bring it with our consciousness and we thread it into the living moment of our lives as we actualize and remember our divinity. So the mother, in that sense, has been the one that bore silent witness to all of that dialectric expansion, creation, theatrical hoo-ha. That's my takeaway on the theme here. Your closing thoughts, Dan?
Absolutely. I was trying to get a quote from our dear off-planet scientist that goes right along with...
Get the quote. Get the quote. I'll ask Jane to come in here and I'll come back to you. Get the quote. I want to hear it. Jane.
Well, I have to ask Elena while she's here. Did I hear her say there's not going to be a solar flash? Because my friends will kill me if I don't ask that question.
Well, the sun has flashes regularly. Okay, there may be solar flashes because there are always solar flashes on ongoing basis, but this is not something that is going to activate humanity. The activation process, activation of what? Of the realization of who you are, the suddenly blast of awareness of who you are. This is a personal process for each of you, a personal process that you are going to undergo at your own pace, privately, personally, with your luggage of wounds, of traumas that you're going to need to heal, and your personal journey. And there's nothing global that is going to activate everyone at once. This doesn't work. This is not logical because we all have different levels of journeying on that path. So I think this solar flash is another psyop, not the solar flash in itself. Sun has flashes all the time, and cycles, but the psyop is what we put on a solar flash event that is going to do something about activation. That's to make people passive and not do the work. That's, to me, another psyop.
So I think that's a very interesting subject. And I have to say, I foundationally disagree in some sense. I'm certainly one who believes that where we commandeer our own ideation, our own imagination, and we bring together a fellowship of men and women in a state of actualized consciousness, and we situate that group plasma onto a dateline or a cosmic event or in anything, actually, that will help to consolidate a morphogenetic upshift. It's my understanding that you're absolutely right, that it's all about whether or not we have personally crossed that threshold and done the work. And if we haven't, then no amount of cosmic events is going to make a jot's worth of difference. I could not agree more with that. I love the way you say it. But for those people who have done the work and now recognize that it is the currency of the fellowship of men, so to speak, that is going to be taking us into how we steer the collective into that morphogenetic upshift, that to me is the importance of us saying, okay, well, look, we could choose any date or any event. And as long as we are all of us group plasma projecting, and God, if we had the crystal technology, so much the better. I mean, that would just take it to the quantum as far as I'm concerned. So to explain to people who are confused about the dialectic here that we're discussing, we could choose almost any event or time and put our group attention there and manifest something. My argument about things like the upcoming eclipse is that it is a perfect cosmic totem for those who have done the work and who are genuinely, through the empathic wave connected to the fellowship, we can use these events to come together and manifest some kind of morphogenetic upshift. Just momentarily speak to that, Elena, please.
Yeah, Sasha, I totally agree with you on that. What we agree, it's 100% is that nothing is doing it for us. We are doing it. So doing things collectively is even better for those who have passed a certain threshold to manifest our reality. That's even better. The more we do exercise of manifesting reality, our reality together, it's working. It's working. With Dan Willis, you remember, Dan, we did this first meditation with the crystal of work of manifesting a creation of our reality into a crystal. We made a video. There were, I think, 70,000 people doing this at the same time, and we spiked the Schumann resonance. I remember that. Do you remember that?
Yes, Jen Han said we're in interresonance with the planetary. So our bodies are, and the crystals that grow on this planet are in resonance with the planetary matrix, and so we affected the what they call the Schumann resonance.
Very good. We've got Dr. Alex Ling coming on to the next segment and a group of shamanic scientist minds in order to discuss the hyperdimensional physics behind some of these cosmological events, like the upcoming eclipse on the April the 8th, and how the ionosphere, the fabric and the geometry of the ionosphere changes during an eclipse. That's just a hard forensic physical thing. When the electrons are kind of pulled or dilated further apart, I mean, it's not happenstance that we've got NASA sending 3 rockets up during the eclipse. And it's not happenstance that the Super Hadron Collider in CERN is also, after years of being in the doldrums, is activating on that day at that time during the 4 minutes, 28.1 seconds of the totality of the eclipse. So there's definitely this is a quanta or a vector that is being elected or selected for good or for ill, it seems to me. And I'm very studied in the pathology of those kind of events, Babylonian sacrificial node points, and how they've been the utility of Babylonian priesthoods and invisible masters in order to conduct mass ritual sacrifice and so on those datelines. So my concern has been, how do we now counterpoint those Babylonian actions with right action, with corrected morphogenetic plasma? That's my interest in these things. I don't have an interest in anything out there in and of itself. But I think so long as we are still being the utility of these Babylonian calendric events and witchcraft, to me, it makes sense that we can, where we can, we should be using those to create counterpoint energy. Dan, give us the quote if you like, and your last reflections as well.
Oh, while we were discussing the the vitalness of the two polarities, it just came to mind of the communications log with Jenhan. We were discussing that regarding the crystal technology, and he has all stressed, we can do this without the crystals, of course. We have this within us, but he says also, why not use these powerful tools? Because the crystal is resonant on all dimensions. All densities at the same time because of its geometry, and so is water. And this is what he said in the communication log to me regarding the vitalness of the balance of the masculine and feminine. He said, I will now tell you this. Remember well, my friend, void is equally as important as matter. Frill bridges void and matter. The unshapable concepts that your mind senses through the frequency of an emotion that connects you with the essence of knowledge are as equally as important as the physical words you read on a solid support. Consciousness bridges concepts and words, unshapable emotions and written symbols. One is vital to another, just like copper and silver wire, to the core of the universe, red and white, female blood, male sperm, degeneration and generation, death and life, void and matter, copper and silver, the two serpents. Human DNA is such a thing. The invisible strands are here, although you cannot see them or measure them as necessity, as the palpable ones. The two serpents aren't two different types of atomic arrangements of matter. No, they are the alpha and the omega. They are the void and matter. They are created and uncreated, yet existence and non-existence, construction and deconstruction. The electrodes of the universe that spark source. Source is dual in such ways. When you set the two serpents free to dance around the crystal, they create the very essence of source, frill. This is a reproduction of the great creation. This is powerful, my friend. It is unlimited. It is free. It is not only about crystals. It is about so much more. It is about everything. Once you understand this, you are free. I just thought I'd share that little excerpt from this 150 some pages of exchanges in relation to
that wasn't a quote, it was a thesis, but a very welcomed one. So thank you for that, Dan. I think that's wonderful. Where can we find that?
Say again?
Where can we find that in entirety?
marcelvogel.org. It's a site I did in honor of his pioneering work, which Elena and I are expanding upon the knowledge of crystals with this wonderful Palladian scientist who's currently doing terraforming operations on Mars after he graduated from a university in the Pleiades.
Wow. Well, you count me in on that, because I'm really, really looking forward to helping to get the Vogel, Crystal, Elena Danaan, Dan Willis phenomenon out. Whenever you want to key that initiative out, I'm very excited. Just so you know, I've already been speaking to some serious crystal scouts who know how to mine and get really good quality quartz. I want to connect them in with you. But I don't know how many you wanted to manufacture of these. Is this an initiative that's going to go out around the world, or did you want to contain this initiative to only a circle of a few?
Well, Jenhan Aredian has shared in our long communications two technologies that is knowledge and wisdom from their world. One is how they power their entire planet, and also, as Elena very accurately describes, how they power their starships. But we're not using it for the electrical power generation, as it's not safe on this planet yet to bring out that technology. But it produces frill, and frill, when it goes into the body, it removes disharmonics, and so it's healing and innate. And the other technology that I shared previously allows you to alter the holographic structure of the of reality, which not everybody is into. And you can get a crystal. There's a crystal cutter that we're working with. We have no financial interest in this whatsoever, but they're forming the crystals and according to the specification of Jen Hanaredian, and that's on marcelvogel.org. For people who want to experiment with the crystal sciences. But I'm mostly interested in the academic aspect of understanding the technology of their world, which is thousands of years ahead of our understanding.
Indeed. Well, God bless you, and thank you, Dan. Thank you, Jane. Elena, I want to invite you. We're running 10 minutes over, but I really want to invite you just to have the last word, bring your beautiful resonance in just for a moment. To many people around the world, Elena, they do feel, I know because I travel constantly and I'm constantly gibbering and speaking to thousands of people. It's what I do. I've done it for so long. I've got a fairly good pulse on just the general pulse. From Southeast Asia, Central South America. I'm attending congresses and summits and meeting indigenous leaders, meeting, commoners and meeting leadership. There is a sense, and it is a very, very profound sense, that we are reaching the fulmination point, the culmination point. And to those who are meek of heart, those who are humble, and those who are standing in grace and standing in the flame of truth, as I would put it, I sense no fear whatsoever from them, even although reality is morphing into a shit show at every level. There is no fear. There is a sense of serendipity. These people are welcoming the shift point. They are welcoming whatever unfolds. It is divinely anointed and divinely appointed. That's how the angelic human is receiving the benediction of the shift of ages. Conversely, there are people who are absolutely in a state of constriction and fear, abject fear, paranoia, and complete discombobulation. What is your takeaway? What are your words of wisdom to a world in psycho-civilizational spiritual conflict as we move clearly to an epochal point, a nexus point in 2024, 25? Something's happening. It's going to affect and impact all biological systems. It is the onset of our biological ascension, in my view. What are your words of wisdom to people looking into this broadcast today?
The positive timeline, the timeline of this wonderful future, our birthright future as humans of Earth, is already here. It has already been anchored. And recently, in the last few months, I think it was in January, there was a big council on Earth with the Galactic Federation and few representatives of inner Earth kingdoms to just do a brainstorming and point about the evolution of the humans. And globally, it was really obvious for everyone that humans have globally, if you take the overall frequency measurement, they're already there. There's been enough people on Earth now to this point in time who have awakened to who they are and who are aware, and they are already projected in that future, and it's enough. The Earth, they are bringing all the other ones with them. So it's absolutely beautiful to see this period of victory, even if though the shadow still has some grips on the Earth. But when you have a drastic change in someone's life or in history, or for now, change in timeline, the timeline has been redirected and it's stable now. The old paradigm always fights it and resists. And when you are at the splitting point of you don't know, you don't realize, it's confusing. But as you walk towards this positive future and you leave the old paradigm behind, you see suddenly the difference. There are many humans on Earth who are still in a frame of mind of fear, in the frequency of fear, of wound, of confusion, of despair, of suffering. You know, this is part of the human experience. These people have their own human experience, and these times are catalysts for this human experience. Either side, we need to acknowledge them, love them, plant seeds in their hearts, be there for them with love, but allow them to continue their journey, to achieve their journey with compassion, with our compassion. Maybe many of them will at one point wake up, click, but many of them won't. It's okay, because it's a temporary incarnation. When they finish their time, they come back in a new avatar, in a new time, where this time they will be aware. They will go, wow, they will, So it's just respecting everyone's journey, and it's okay. It's okay. We will be okay. We're already okay. It's fine.
Well, there you have it. Beautiful. Guys, thank you so much. Dan Willis, Jane Evershed, Elena Danaan, thank you so very much for joining us on Lazarus today.
Thank you.
Thank you.